Good morning, Hicksy. How are you?
Good. Good morning to you guys. How are you?
We're great because in part of this baseball team, probably same for you. Be honest. Corey Seager goes down and the Texas Rangers end up in this position on September 11th. Are you believing it?
No. I mean, come on. I mean, and it's not just Corey Seager going down. It's so many key players, and not just losing a Nathan Eovaldi who was having a Cy Young type campaign, but all of the position players. Seager, Simeon, Garcia, Carter, losing Sam Haggerty, who was a real catalyst for the offense. So. I don't think you could have envisioned this, and you certainly couldn't have thought about back in spring training. Well, we're going to get some journeyman minor leaguer who's not even in the system be the guy that carries the team at a most critical time in the season against the club with the best record in baseball. I mean, these are things that just you don't think about, but happen. And it's one of the beauties of the sport that, you can, on paper, take a look at a matchup and say, they're probably not going to do very well. And then you go ahead and sweep a team like Milwaukee. It's just been kind of crazy here these last few weeks.
Are you prepared to tell Bochy, to tell the injured players to just stay injured? And you want to start these guys the rest of the way?
You don't want to mess with a good thing. I mean, that's part of baseball's history, right? You get on a winning streak. You want to continue to do the things that you do. So, some guys, put on the same clothes every day. Some guys go to lunch at the same place every day. Whatever superstition that they have, you don't mess with a winning streak, right? So you're tempted to do that, but we've gotten. Good news here recently on, the developments of Adolis Garcia and Marcus Simeon certainly isn't giving up on coming back at some point in the season. And, hopefully sooner rather than later we get Corey Seager back. But you're right. If all of that happens, who goes?
Matt, we've been talking about the idea of team chemistry and how, maybe these young guys they're maybe just ignorant of the pressure and they're able to play free and it's infused all this energy. We've been trying to debate this. How much do you think clubhouse chemistry and generally just the culture can impact winning when you lose guys and have some of those issues?
I often think maybe it's the other way around too, right? That winning creates a great chemistry in the clubhouse. Guys go out there, they do their jobs, and things are feeling pretty good, and it ends up, showing in results on the field. The chemistry for this team has really been pretty consistent all season long, whether they've been winning or losing. Guys show up, they do their jobs, they are accountable, and they, look to each other for support. And so I don't really think that the chemistry has changed a whole lot throughout the course of the season, but I certainly think that winning on a consistent basis helps that chemistry. And, you show up, you're looking forward to playing, you've got a pretty good chance of winning regardless of who's in the lineup. And I think that kind of feeds on itself.
Matt Hicks joining us here on 105 Through the Fan. Okay, so Hicksy, when we all keep trying to draw parallels, I think, to, hey, 2023 wasn't feeling great necessarily at the end of the season. They get into the postseason. They go on this incredible run that they did. Around this same time of the season, how do you think this Rangers team fits that comparison to the 2023 team? And what are some other areas you may say, that it's different because that 23 team still had this going for them at that time?
Yeah, and you still have obviously guys that were here 2 years ago and remember that. And there's not any magic formula to how it's done. It's not like you're coming out, getting on some highway and going, "Oh yeah, this is where we were. Let's do this again." This is unique compared to 2 years ago, other than the fact that you do have, some guys that were here and remember what happened. So it's just like you can draw comparisons, but every season is different, and it sounds cliche, but every game is different, and the situation, is a little bit different as well. And what's really helping here, not just the fact that the Rangers have won whatever it is now, like 14 of the last 18, to get back in this picture in a really strong way, but Houston's not playing all that great right now, and Seattle has been sort of on an even keel, but a little bit up and down, but not really on a tear. And so we've got a situation here where you've got 5 series remaining, and the Rangers don't play Seattle, but have an opportunity because they play the Astros coming up at the end of this road trip, and so an opportunity to gain some games on them. But then you go home and you're playing the Marlins and the Twins, the 2 teams that aren't really playing for anything right now. So we're 2 weeks ago or so, it seemed like it was a tall task, but now, because of the way the ball club has played, things are definitely within reach. I think if you win the 5 remaining series, there's a really good chance that you're probably in this thing. And it doesn't matter how you get there. It's just getting there. And that's what the 2023 team, showed everybody, that, we limped into the postseason 2 years ago, and then something just sort of magically clicked, and we couldn't lose on the road. And so, I don't think we're ever going to see anything like that again. But, we might see something similar to how the team got to the postseason 2 years ago.
Matt, in the last 5 wins, the closer has been Maton, Armstrong, Martin, Armstrong, Maton. Playoff starts tomorrow. Who's the closer?
If the playoffs start tomorrow, then we're seeing what we're seeing right now. I think that Shan Armstrong gets the bulk of the chances. But just like Bruce Bochy said before the win yesterday over Milwaukee, that, depending upon where we were, in the other team's lineup, that you might see Armstrong go maybe even in the 8th inning. And that's what we saw yesterday. And then Phil Maton ended up getting the 9th. So for whatever reason, they liked that matchup of Armstrong. And in the 8th inning yesterday, we were at 5, 6, and 7 in the order. And, Sean's been so good against right-handed pitching, but the way things were lining up for the Brewers in the 8th inning yesterday, they had a lefty and a switch hitter at 5 and 7, respectively, in the order. So, he's even getting out lefties right now. And so I'm not so sure why that particular threesome was the matchup for Armstrong. But right now, it doesn't seem to matter. Sean is pitching with extreme confidence. Here for Maton in the last 3 or 4 outings, his curveball has been incredibly wicked, and he seems to be pitching with more confidence right now. Robert Garcia is on a run of something like, 9 or 10 consecutive outings in which he's not given up a run. He's not figured in the back end yet. But, this bullpen has been very reliable for the most part all season long. And so, if the playoffs were to start tomorrow, I think we'd see the same thing we've seen here in the last, week or so.
The great Matt Hicks joining us here, Rangers play-by-play, swim timer, and chess instructor. You're already the most interesting man on the Rangers broadcast because of your hip-hop knowledge and your pink pants and all that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone bring up chess instructor.
Yeah, I did that. Now, it's been a while since I've done that, but when before I joined the Rangers, when I was working in Corpus Christi, the school that my son was attending, the elementary school, needed some help, and they needed somebody to help with their chess club. And I volunteered, and there was nobody else that was volunteering. There was another father of a kid that his son was in the chess club. But they needed to have regular meetings, and so I volunteered to be there for those meetings and to tutor these kids and to help with the scheduling of them playing. And so for, I think it was 3 years, I helped out the Windsor Park Elementary Owls chess team.
Wow!
And they They actually, we helped kind of grow the club a bit. They did pretty well. My son was, playing chess at the time too. But it was a lot of fun helping those kids out. Pardon me. I used to play competitively before getting into baseball on a regular basis, and so it was a lot of fun.
What was your favorite move?
What Ranger players did you take on? Certain players or people in the organization?
You know what, I have played, and it's funny. There's a running joke because Jeremy Jeffries not only played, but he had his own really expensive chessboard.
Oh.
And he and I got together. I forget what season it was, and we would play a game where, when I had the opportunity to be in the clubhouse, we would make the moves, but we would suspend the game, and then the next day that we were able to play, we would pick it up, and we never finished the game. It's sometimes you can sit down and you can play quickly, but Jeremy was one of those guys that wanted to think about his moves, and I'm the same way. So I'm not real good with speed chess, but he's one of the guys that I played, but we never had a result. And there are a number of guys on the team that will play, and one of the guys I've talked about playing against that is on the club now is Marcus Semien, but we've not been able to sit down and go at it. Semien told me that when the year that he was with Toronto in spring training, that the Blue Jays had a chess tournament all throughout spring training.
Wow.
A lot of guys play.
Matt, if this type of run was happening in football, I feel like it would be easier for us to talk about what the coach is doing, right? They're running the football. They're blitzing more. Same thing in basketball. The rotations have changed. They're running more in transition. You guys talk to Bochy every day. He's obviously a Hall of Famer. Explain to us the Bochy effect during this run and what you've been picking up from him and his greatness.
Just a calm, steady, guiding hand. He's not one of these managers or leaders that is rah-rah, gung-ho, coming into the players portion of the clubhouse and, giving speeches and stuff like that. He just sort of, and I don't want to say he removes himself because he doesn't, but he does give the players their space. But, I think that Boch is a real interesting combination of old school and new school. I think that Boch, for many years prior to this analytics era or whatever you want to call it, was a guy who thought that way. And so, he very much embraces the information that's available to him and to the players, and sort of helps to fuse, that so that these guys can be at their best in terms of preparation for each game. But, I think that there's a big part of Boch that's all about, as the game progresses, letting the game come to you and doing what the game asks you to do. Remember when we had Ron Washington as a manager, he would say that often, what is the situation? What is the game asking you to do? And I think Bruce Bochy is definitely, a proponent of that kind of baseball. So while the analytics may tell you that over the course of a season, this is the way to approach things, each game is different in what it is that you should be doing. And so, I think right now what we're seeing is not just, a bunch of guys going up there and trying to slug on offense, but guys going up and figuring out, what do I need to do in this at bat? And when I come up, I'm not just hitting in a vacuum here. There's a certain situation, and I should be looking, for this pitch in this particular spot and trying to do this, as opposed to, okay, I need to be trying to, drive the ball here regardless. And it seems to me like, one of Bochy's strengths is figuring out and putting together a lineup that works on a nightly basis, and I think that's one of the big areas where he's impacted this ball club in a positive way.
Thank you so much, Hicksy. Love having you on. Let's keep it rolling. Have a great call tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Thanks.
The great Matt Hicks from New York on the D&M Leasing Hotline.